As with any new and innovative bit of technology, a number of the early games for Switch do feel a bit like tech demos, which is a similar problem faced by both the Wii and Wii U. As you might expect, something like 1-2-Switch has been built around the hardware's unique features rather than around a great creative idea, so it's fun, but not really long-lived. However, other projects like rhythm game Voez use the console in ways we didn't expect. The game, which launched last year for mobile devices, has now arrived on the Switch as a launch title in some regions. Bucking the trend, Voez does not support the console's TV mode. If you want to play, you'll need to undock and use the touchscreen, effectively stripping the console back to its tablet roots. This then opens up a whole nother can of worms. Will Nintendo's own mobile games make the jump back from smartphone to home console? Other games are just as much at home on the Switch as they would be on any other console. Splatoon 2 doesn't need to be on Switch, and neither does Super Bomberman R. Sure, Breath of the Wild might be better on Switch, but you can play it on Wii U just the same if that's your thing. But some games are perfect for Switch. In fact, we were surprised by the game that we found might be the killer app, the one game that will convince fence sitters to buy a new console. That game is ARMS. It's a Switch exclusive, requires a second set of Joy-Cons, and uses physical controls. You are in a three-dimensional arena, the Joy-Cons become your in-game boxing gloves, and your arms are suddenly super stretchy. It's kind of like the boxing minigame from Wii Sports, but better, because you can hit your opponent from great distance, and both of you are crazy anime characters. We first saw this one in the Switch reveal press conference and had kind of written it off. Springman and Ribbon Girl ducked, dodged and bounced their way around the ring, throwing punches from across the room, and we thought it would be just another proof of concept. We get it. Switch has motion sensing controls with accelerometers and triggers. We've seen it before. But we hadn't. Not really. Picking up the Joy-Cons, ARMS suddenly felt like a real fighting game. It felt like a light version of Street Fighter if Street Fighter had fallen into a comic book and couldn't get out. The controls made sense. There was more to it than left-right combo punching. Flick both Joy-Cons forward to grab your opponent and then pull them towards you with your rubber arms. You can throw curve punches, block and dodge, and perform a devastating special attack in a flurry of punches. Adding a bit of variety to all of this is the roster of fighters, each one playing slightly differently. Some might be faster but deal less damage, while others are hulking brutes. You can further customize your fighter by equipping armor and even choosing different sets of arms, which can drastically change the way you play. This is not just a one-to-one translation of the sport of boxing like Nintendo attempted to do with Wii Sports 10 years ago. You're not going to be out of breath at the end of each round because ARMS requires strategy and timing rather than hopelessly flailing limbs. And the truly beautiful thing about ARMS, if you don't like the motion controls or holding the Joy-Con vertically, you can switch over and use the gamepad controls. I would love to see ARMS make an entry into the pro fighting game space. Tournaments and esports and big prize pools on offer for the person who's best at flinging springy limbs at an opponent. I think it's got the goods to challenge something like Super Smash Bros. For a light-hearted competitive game. But just like Smash Bros., there's a slight barrier to entry. This is a fully priced game from a new franchise for a new console, and you need to buy a second set of Joy-Cons to enjoy it properly, especially while we're not sure if it'll support online multiplayer. In Australia, that means around a $200 investment on top of a $500 console, and that might be too much for the average person. That said, ARMS isn't actually out yet, so you do have a bit of time to save up, and it should be out by around the time you complete Breath of the Wild. If you are a Nintendo fan, chances are you've already picked up a Switch or have pre-ordered one to come in with the next wave of deliveries. You're probably already ankle deep in Hyrule, you've memorized your friend code, and you're a master of the quick draw in 1-2-Switch. But if you haven't yet taken the plunge, maybe don't rush in just yet. We've waited 2 years to see what the Switch is all about, so you can wait a little longer to see if Nintendo can iron out those few niggling issues and to find out if any of the games tickle your fancy. That's not an ARMS pun, I promise.